Okay, we're live. Let's just wait a little bit until people join and tune in. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good. We can just wait, a few minutes until.
Yeah.
We have 8 people. Say hello in the comments if you're here, so we can say hello to you. We have a lot of our students and friends joining as well, so exciting. 9 people.
Friday.
Yeah.
Ooh, 14.
But it's Saturday for you, right, Ella?
It's already Saturday. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, Kay from Virginia, US. It's Saturday, 3 a.m. for me here in Europe.
It's quite early.
It's okay. Yeah. Hello, Bree. Hello from Canada. Exciting. Let's wait a little bit more, and then we
move.
we go on with it. Hello from Belize.
Hello.
Hello. Who is in Belize? Only Linette and Emilio are in Belize right now, right?
Yeah.
The rest of us are stuck. April! Hi, April!
Is April there?
She's one of our
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, okay. Should we start? We have quite a few people and then they will join. Marvin says good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Should I start with St. Creek, Belize, Marvin? Hi. Okay. Should we start? Are we ready? Hi, Tracy. I'm so glad you could join. I had my first excavation with Tracy.
Oh.
Yeah, many years ago. I'm so happy you could join. April Beers. Thank you, April. Hello from LA. Okay, I think we can start. We have nice to see you too, Tracy. In the comments. We can start now, and then people will join. And I just want to say that this is kind of like a Q&A and discussion, so feel free to comment. And then we're going to have Linette's presentation, and then we're going to open up for questions and further discussion from other people. So you can ask your question during the presentation, or you can just ask at the end when we open for questions and discussion. Really up to you. We like to have everyone's question answered, but if we can't because of time, then after the live, we're going to go back in the comments and try to answer all of your questions and replies, just to make sure. Okay, so I just quickly want to introduce our organization. Many of you know it's a very new nonprofit, registered nonprofit organization. Those of you who followed us since March know how new everything is, and we really appreciate your support. It has been, insane, a lot of work, and really just thank you for everyone who joined us, and not just today, but who followed our work, and all the supportive words and all of the donations and contributions that you guys send. It's amazing. It's really humbling to look at how much appreciation we get from people, and it really makes us very happy. So yes, Heritage Education Network Belize, new nonprofit organization. We support cultural and natural heritage education, and we also support community engagement, and we also support businesses, organizations, um, artists, artisans, designers, um, tour guides, tour operators, and really just individuals in the creative and tourism sectors, because we truly believe that people in these sectors are key stakeholders in safeguarding and maintaining Belize's culture and heritage. Um, so we provide, for those of you who are new to the organization, we provide online learning materials, just like this one. We have live videos and live discussions on Facebook. We have three um, different types of videos that we publish. We have archaeology and culture themed videos. We have business and marketing themed videos to help artisans and entrepreneurs. And we also have a quick tutorial section on our Facebook channel. We recently started our YouTube channel as well for people to access our videos for those who don't want to join Facebook, or it's just an easier access. And we're still updating it. We're uploading all the videos we have on Facebook. You can view it on both pages. And we also have a resource library that is free. It is full of free workbooks and learning materials that you can download. You can go to our website, which is heritagebelize.org. Oh, I just got a message that my microphone is scratchy. Maybe it's mine. Should I change it? Do you think it's mine?
Is it?
Is it? I'll change it. You know, why not? Just a sec. Is it better now? Still a little crackly, but I guess it is what it is. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how it goes. I think yes, you can go to heritagestudies.org and sign up for our mailing list, which gives you the password for our free resource library. And also, if you sign up for our mailing list, you get notifications and info right into your mailbox about our latest projects, our latest news, our latest learning materials, our latest discussions, just like this one. Who signed up already got the notification from this live. And yeah, without talking a lot about the organizations, I want to go on to introduce the speakers for tonight. First of all, I want to introduce Miss Linette Sabido, who is presenting tonight. She is a research and education officer at the Institute for Social and Cultural Research. She has a bachelor's in arts and sociology, and she's also a lecturer at St. John's College Junior College. And she's here today to talk about intangible cultural heritage, safeguarding intangible cultural heritage, to let us know and to discuss what intangible cultural heritage is. And she's also here to introduce ISCR's latest project, which is Belize Living Heritage. So for those of you who are interested in learning more, I'm sure Linette will mention, but the website is belizelivingHeritage.org. So you can head on over there and find out more about the project. And we also have with us Emilio Pereira. He is, for those of you who don't know him, he's the face behind the Emilio Pereira brand. Amazing. He's an entrepreneur, he's a designer, he's also an artisan and a businessman. And he's joining this conversation tonight because He brings a very specific aspect of highlighting the connection between artisanship, business, culture, and sustainability. It is something that we try to raise um, awareness about at our organization as well, and a lot of people don't see this connection. So Emilio is joining us um, tonight, this evening, night, to talk about this. And he was also recently featured in our new Heritage Highlight project. If you're interested in that, you can go to our website and look up Heritage Highlight in our project and find Emilio's piece, the article about Emilio. And also, if you're interested in following him on Instagram, his handle is emilio.pereira. So check out his page. Amazing designer. we really love his designs here. So yeah, and we also have with us Ali, Ali Villarreal. She's an archaeologist. She's also a great friend of ours. She's a volunteer at our organization. She's also a museum professional, and she's currently a PhD candidate at the University of Texas San Antonio. And her research focuses on middle Preclassic Maya ceramics in the Mapan River Valley. So throughout her research, she learned a lot about traditional techniques, and she engages a lot with living heritage, which is why she's with us today. And so really we have a very diverse group of people here to discuss intangible cultural heritage. I myself, my work is also in cultural heritage and community engagement, for those of you who know me. So really, I think we can go on and start the next presentation. And make sure to send your questions in, and we're going to answer them at the end. Linette, to you now.
Good night again, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for the Heritage Education Network Belize for having me here tonight as well, along with my fellow colleagues. It's such an honor to be here and a pleasure. I have to say, from the beginning, I've applauded your efforts. From you guys took action immediately, and the project has been taking its own life, like I mentioned earlier. And I do believe that it's so because it is a true reflection of what us here in Belize we truly value, and that is knowing ourselves and our culture as well, aside from sharing a little bit more about, the business aspect, tourism, all these different things that affect us on a daily basis. So again, thank you so much for having me. And once again, I applaud your efforts and the initiative, and I'm more than happy to be here tonight. So I wanted to start before to ease into the discussion by sharing something a bit personal. So when I was putting together the presentation and going over my notes, I was going over through years and years of pictures, because this initiative of us Belizeans safeguarding our culture is not something recent. It's something that's been happening since we have any recollection of it. Even if we don't do it in a standard way, or we're not conscious of that we're doing it, we are safeguarding our culture in all different manners by implementing designs in our day in our material culture, by talking about our culture with people, and by simply practicing our culture. So it's something that we do on a regular basis, we do daily. So I was looking through years and years of pictures, and I can't help but say how proud I was that this is Belize. I'm proud to be a Belizean. I'm proud to say that this is part of my cultural heritage. And it made my day. And of course, to top it off, I had to go listen to the Queen of Brockdown, Miss Leela Vernon. And that's how I started my morning. And from then, I always make sure that I tune in to something that will get me going for the day, and remind me that this is part of our culture. This is something that I should be proud of, that we Belizeans should be proud of. And as I'll be talking about later on, when it comes to an international representation, we are way up high. I say that with all proud, with very proud that Belize is, we are way ahead, um, in particular in our region, when it comes to safeguarding and promoting our intangible cultural heritage, our living heritage. So I'm very excited to share what I've come across in my experience, and also to have you all as well hear from Emilio and Ali, because they contribute greatly to our discussion tonight. So before I start to talk a little bit more about our culture and intangible cultural heritage, I want to look at it from an international level first, and then zoom it back into our more local level. So we'll start a little bit by telling you and explaining a little bit about how is it that we began to formally promote and safeguard our intangible cultural heritage. And this begins with the guiding body of UNESCO. So next slide. What is UNESCO? I'm pretty sure we've heard of the UN, UNESCO, and we know it by the acronyms. But what is it really, though? And we say that UNESCO is an international organization known as the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So, of course, this is going to be the international organization that has a mandate in culture. So, its main aim is to promote international cooperation, and they do this international cooperation and peace, and they believe that one of the best ways to do this is through the promotion of our culture, highlighting our culture, that richness that all of us share. I know that we have so many different cultures, but then at the same time, we all have a little flavor, a little gist, a little taste of different cultures, and that's the beauty of culture. Culture is a mesh of anything that you want to consider that holds value and importance to people, and is a reflection of their life. So another major role that UNESCO plays in when it comes to safeguarding and promoting our culture is they assist in capacity building. And what does this mean, assisting in capacity building? What they do is that they provide training to the countries and country representatives to assist us in how to approach the communities, how to assist the communities in developing a plan and highlighting what it is that they want to focus on, or identifying any particular section or aspect of their culture that might be in danger. So that's what they do, and they assist through capacity building. And this is a few of the things that UNESCO does, because trust me, they assist in every way possible that they can. But
yeah, I think I just want to say that it's really there's a lot of aspect to culture, and it's really hard to pinpoint. And for those of you who actually studied, cultural heritage or archaeology or cultural studies, the discussions and the debates that go on and go on and go on forever about what culture is. We still don't have the definition for culture, to be honest. We still don't have a definition for heritage. I remember having, I don't even know, several seminars on what heritage is, and then it's like a heated debate for like 2 hours about what it is. And to be honest, nobody's wrong and nobody's right at the same time. It's so broad and yeah, exactly, and it includes so many things. So this is why we titled this discussion as why you're a part of intangible cultural heritage too, because you are, even though you don't notice it. And to be honest, now that you mentioned all of the aspects that UNESCO aids, in the ways in which UNESCO aids culture and heritage, our organization tries to align with all of this. We also have the heritage aspect. We try to incorporate the capacity building aspect. We also try to incorporate the community engagement aspect, and there's a lot to it. So it's really, really broad. and really everyone is part of it in some way or another, I guess.
You couldn't have said it any better. So, to try to define culture, we'd be doing it major injustice.
Yeah.
We cannot define culture. Culture is the way we live. It's life, so we cannot define it. And you're definitely right. And speaking about UNESCO and furthering the discussion, zooming in a little bit more, one convention in particular that definitely mans what the work that we do, both us at the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, ISCR, and Heritage Education Network Belize, is a convention known as the 2003 UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. So on to the next slide, we'll see that this convention is developed by collaboration of the different countries and UNESCO. And the main aim of this convention is to safeguard practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, skills that communities, and not only communities, it's groups, in some cases individuals, what they recognize as part of their cultural heritage. And I have to say that the beauty about this convention, although it provides the different countries with guidelines, they're so broad that the countries are able to amend or adjust it based on their own needs. So although this convention provides you with guidelines on how to do the inventory, the country has all the freedom to adapt it to their own needs. So that's the beauty of this convention. So as you'll see on the next slide, Belize signed on to the convention in 2007. So by us, Belize ratifying the convention in 2007, we are agreeing to this. Remember, a convention is like a binding agreement. So Belize is saying, we are signing on with this. We agree with what you're trying to promote, and we are going to be a part of it too. And we ratified the convention again in 2007. However, it all came into force until 2008, in the 4th of March, a very important day. 4th of March, 2008. Yes, for us, when the convention was in full force in Belize. And now that this convention was signed and that Belize is a part of it, what this means is that, like I mentioned, as a country, we are agreeing with what the convention is saying. And aside from that, we're going to be benefiting. We're going to have certain benefits from having signed on to this convention. And one of them is, one of the major benefits is, aside from being able to access capacity building trainings, we're able to access a fund. And this fund, when we apply to it, we're going to be receiving that fund and able to better implement the convention, assist artisans, do capacity building of our own for the country, and just in a way use those funds to promote culture. So, but what happens though now? Yes, we've signed the convention. We're in full agreement. We're going to access. We're participants, and we're going to have the opportunity to access those funds. But what happens next? Okay, so now who's going to represent us? Who's going to ensure that the convention is being implemented in Belize and that things are being followed? And this is where the role of the National Institute of Culture and History, NICH, comes into play. And NICH becomes the official implementing agency of the 2003 convention. So what this means is that NICH is going to be representing Belize in the international level when it comes to participating in trainings hosted by UNESCO, and we're going to be the representing body to when we want to apply for these funds. So those two major things. So once this happened and it became the implementing agency, a series of workshops were launched, and this was through accessing some funds from the from UNESCO as well. And now having these funds, we were able to. This started way in 2012 and 2013. This was when the first set of national workshops that were held countrywide, north, south, east, and west, everywhere. We had these workshops going on, and we had representatives from all the different communities and the cultural groups. I believe that we had I don't remember the numbers exactly, but we had a large group of participants, and these included cultural councils, we had stakeholders, and we had cultural practitioners. So it was a vast group of people with diverse backgrounds. Like I mentioned, we had the cultural councils. We have the National Garifuna Council, the National Creole Council. These are all representatives um, who were there for that workshop as well. So what was done during these workshops is that first we needed to raise awareness. We needed to inform the people and tell them about the convention and what was happening, what's going on. We want to develop a plan. So at the heart of everything, as you will see later in a bit, are the communities. If we don't have the community support, we're not doing anything. So that's why we needed the community support and to have them found from the beginning so that they were the ones who develop a plan of how are we going to safeguard and promote our culture. So now having these communities develop these plans and guidelines, what better way or who better to tell us what to do and what they need assistance in than the communities themselves, right? So they came ahead and developed their own guidelines. So yes, we do have the convention that we use as guidelines, but as I mentioned, now we have the Belizean aspect to it applied. The how us as Belizeans were going to implement this. So this is now when we have the Belize model coming into play that was developed with the assistance of the communities. And like I mentioned, this work has begun from 2012, formally begun in 2012, because like I mentioned, we've been practicing our culture and promoting it since we have recollection, since we can recall. So to the next, on the next slide, you'll see the model that we've used to implement the convention. And I have to say, thank you very much, Ella. You played an important role in the design and the development of the model. So thank you. As you see in the outer ring, we have the UNESCO Convention. So that is what guides us, but we are going at it from the big, the macro, to the small, the micro. So now we have the big convention, UNESCO Convention, but we're making it a bit more local, making it Belizean. So we developed the Banquitas Action Plan. So this Banquitas Action Plan was a guide developed by the communities that showed what they identified what areas of our culture need urgent safeguarding, like which areas we need to immediately start to document and inventory, and the plan that they wanted to adopt. And so we've been using this guide for the past couple of years. And on 2018, we began revising this plan because, you know, as things change, we need to adapt. And so we said it's time to take a look at this guide again and see what could be adjusted or changed or included. So we had a meeting with all the cultural practitioners, communities. We had representatives of the communities. We had about close to 30 to 31. And of course, this is not representative of the entire country. Sometimes it could be a bit challenging getting everybody, you know, in one location. So we had this follow-up meeting in Maya Center in 2018, and all the community members, we got together and we went to revise this Banquitas, Banquitas action plan. And the meeting was hosted in Maya Center, and so it was decided that the name of this new action plan is going to be known as the Maya Center Declaration. So it becomes the Maya Center Declaration now, and this is the new guide that we have that guides us in doing the inventorying, the documenting, you know, and keeping tabs and ensuring what it is that we need, that needs urgent safeguarding. So then following the policies, we have the actions that have been taken. And these actions include, I think, can you see it there? It's a bit small, but you have that we want to build awareness. That's one of the main actions. Build awareness. Ensure that not only these community practitioners, but the entire country is aware and knows a bit more about the importance of our ICH and what we're working with. We want to also build capacity. We want to train the people to do proper inventorying and the documenting of their culture. So we've had several workshops, and I can proudly say that we have over 40 people trained in doing inventorying, like proper inventorying, the way how to approach communities, how to document, how to conduct interviews, how to research our culture. So we have over 40 of them. If you guys are watching, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure that they are tuned in. Trust me, they do this out of their own interest. They don't get paid or anything like that. They
That's
do this
amazing.
they want to. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is just the inventorying teams. I'm not even talking yet about our network, our ICH network. We have the cultural practitioners, Miss Florencia, Miss Magania, you have Miss Adela, Mr. Faustino Young, you have Andy Chuk, all these people, you know, who this is not their job. They don't get any kind of compensation for this. They do this out of their own passion for culture. So
Yeah.
I'm at a lot of words when it comes to this, because it's
Yeah,
something
definitely. Yeah, it's definitely something that I noticed that throughout my years and that I spent in Belize. It's really amazing how active the different communities are and how active different NGOs are and how proud everyone is, and the work they do is truly amazing. And I think raising awareness is one of the biggest challenges in in all of this, because we need to make sure that people understand the difference between tangible and intangible cultural heritage, and how we can safeguard intangible cultural heritage. I think a lot of people don't know that that the initial ideas around heritage and culture were very, very different. So if you look at the UNESCO, the 1970s UNESCO Convention, and the list for World Heritage, the World Heritage list that everyone knows about, and that's like a thing, it has become a thing, but many people don't know how many discourses and how many disagreements it sparked back in the day, which is good. It's good to talk about it, and because people mentioned that it was criticized that the UNESCO World Heritage List actually focuses on more of the tangible aspect of heritage. So by tangible heritage, we mean museums, architecture, archaeological sites, artifacts, and so the physical, tangible aspect of culture and heritage. And it was criticized, and it was wildly criticized that the criteria for saying that something is World Heritage is focused, or it kind of the criteria prefers tangible heritage, or some people criticize it to be too Eurocentric or quote unquote Western, and therefore it creates a bias, and it doesn't give the same opportunity to identify culture and heritage in other areas outside of the Western sphere, as people would say it. So really, this sparked this discussion, this triggered this discussion that eventually led to the 2003 safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage, which is intangible heritage, as Linette said, the traditions, music, art,
Dance, yeah,
artisanship, dance. It's not, it's, you know, the intangible
yeah,
element of culture that is, you know, and it kind of triggers such a big change in a way we look at culture and heritage and where we are right now. And, you know, because a lot of people still use archaeological sites, for example. You know, people go there to hold their ceremonies. People connect with archaeological sites. So that is also the aspect of how you relate to a specific archaeological site, for example, how you relate to objects, how you relate to a specific you know, technique. It's not just the object itself. So really it triggered a very, very different perspective on what
yeah,
culture and what heritage is. And so raising awareness to that is very, very important, because people don't realize that they are a part of it too. You know, it's not just one platform building. It's not just
exactly.
one ceramic pot or something like that, you know. So definitely, I think it's a big part of it.
Yeah, and one of the beautiful things about culture is that you cannot really understand culture if you do not understand the tangible. So they complement each other. They're both the tangible
Yeah,
and the intangible. And if you think about it, um, our culture, our intangible culture, I guess, things we assign meaning to the tangible. So it is through that that the tangible part of culture gets meaning. And I'm sure Ali is going to be discussing
yeah,
a
we
little
know.
Yeah.
more. Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
and
go ahead.
go ahead, Ali.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the key that both of you all are talking about, and that Ella brought up, like why this model might be more successful than the UNESCO model in the 1970s, is because it is centered on communities and like the people who actually live this culture, you know, every day,
Yeah,
and are then able to recognize it. So what you're saying, like that kind of top-down old model of what a World Heritage site is, you know,
and
have to use things that people from the outside can understand, but this model more so reflects what is internal to the community, right?
yeah,
So,
and the beauty about it too is that we got our own list as well now. The ICH part, that this is known as the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So what happens is that countries get together once a year and they present their case and they say why this element of culture it should be inscribed, you know, in the list, and you have countries voting. It's truly amazing to see how people come together, you know, and then your list gets your cultural element gets added onto the list. And I'm proud to say that us Malaysians, we have an element already inscribed, and this is with in partnership or with this element was inscribed not only as Belize, but it was inscribed with as Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Honduras as well. And if you go to the next slide, you will see which element I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure some of our viewers might know. Oh, sorry, no, it's not that
Oh,
one. It's go to the other
it's still
slide.
about intangible and intangible culture heritage and living heritage, but I think we discussed it thoroughly.
Yes, this next one.
It's just this one, yeah.
Yes. So the Garifuna language, dance, and music has been successfully inscribed into the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. I know this was a big deal for us, and this actually happened way back in 2001. And the best part of it is that it was a community initiative. It was the community that actually got together and they submitted this element to be inscribed.
It's so important,
Yeah.
you know, and I think one of the things that we find, especially now doing the Heritage Highlight project, is that we need to reach out to people. We need to, it's a lot of work, you know, to reach out to people, and many people don't think that they would fit the Heritage Highlight aspect of it. So just like, you know, with Emilio, he's a designer, but then again, the techniques he uses, the techniques you use, Emilio, and you know, you work with artisans, you're an artisan yourself, is, you know, it shows an aspect of intangible culture in a way. So it's also very important for, you know, the communities and the individuals and the organizations to step up and say, hey, I'm part of this too. Hey, I want, you know, I want to represent my culture, or please feature me, or something along the lines, you know. So it's very important, because
Yeah, ultimately people carry on the heritage. I mean, without them, like
yeah,
like
Yes.
Linette was saying, is people are
yeah,
We
yeah,
need
definitely.
our culture.
ownership. Yeah, ownership of our culture. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, definitely.
it's so amazing to see the different initiatives that are going on right now. You have the Northern Maya Association. That's just one to mention. You have so many of them out there, and even individuals taking it upon themselves. Like I know Hugo Carrillo, you
I
guys
know.
met him,
Yeah,
and
we
we
he's my
featured
cousin.
him.
He's my
We know.
cousin.
yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
even
Small
better.
world.
We've worked with him for years, and you know, to have that passion, limited resources, and still be able to have a physical museum to showcase your culture. And aside from that, all the educational outreaches that they do on their own. For instance, Miss Adela in up north,
In
Mr.
Corozal.
Yes, in Corozal, they offer Maya classes, the language, the numbers. They're trying to, you know, continue to share their culture and ensure that there's a retention of that culture.
Mm.
And
Miss
they don't.
Felicita in Yo Creek.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
there's just so many people, you know, that you meet in this field that truly
The
have a
world
passion for
champion
it.
type of team. I mean, right?
Aren't we international winners,
Yes.
champions? Yeah.
2017, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was 2017. It's amazing. So yeah, the
Exactly.
community is very important, and just reaching out, and even if you think you're not a part of this, you are, you know, especially if you look at the piece we did with Emilio. It's about how you, Emilio, your inspiration comes from Belizean heritage itself, and Belizean traditions, and Belizean cultures, and Belizean techniques. So even if it's something that you think is so unrelated, it is not.
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So yeah, very important. Yeah.
So, if it's all right with you all, I would say let's talk a little bit more about living heritage, or living heritage, like what it is really, because we've been saying it and we hinting at it's, yes, with culture, but let's take a closer look at what living heritage is.
Next slide.
Yes, please. So our living heritage, one, like I've been saying, the communities are at the heart of everything. So they're very important, and they're the ones who define what their living heritage is. They're the ones who practice it and live it. So they define it. And another thing with their cultural heritage is that it's constantly changing. This is dynamic. Culture is dynamic. I think one of the most amazing things here again is Emilio's work, how he has incorporated the traditional into the modern, giving it a modern twist. I don't know, Emilio, if you want to talk a little bit about your inspiration here.
Yes, when I came back to Belize, I remember studying and thinking about the Mayas, you know, and what they and how they were very connected to the land. And I think that is what we, like present our generation, we've been so disconnected from the land, from an identity, from ourselves, from community, you know, which is one of the negative effects of globalization. You know, we are in this fast-paced lifestyle, like, you know, and the culture is like evolving, yes, but it's evolving very fast, and we are not really like present, you know. Whereas in the past, all our ancestors, they were very in tune with the now, with family, with their surroundings, you know. And that's what I fell in love with when I started off with my designs, is that how connected the artisans are to their surroundings. They use materials that are there, and they create beautiful things, you know, through community, because all the artisans I work with, they work together in groups, in family, you know, like whether they're making pots, whether they're making natural fibers, whether they're weaving, whether they're painting, it's always in a community based, you know. And that I feel, and I love being the part of that, you know, there was a connection. So I tried to see, that's where I got my inspiration from with working with the natural fibers, you know, and it brought me back where they made bags that were nothing new, that they still make bags that they've been using for centuries. When they would go out into the forest, you know, and collect their stuff, they would put their water and stuff in these little Hennequin bags. And I saw that, I'm like, how can I modernize that and make it into a truly beautiful bag? And that's when my ideas start flowing, and I started realizing the ideas that I wanted.
And I think it's interesting, just to jump off that, is by pulling the traditional into, you know, modern day, and it is that dynamic constantly changing, but it's also kind of reassigning meaning to certain objects. So,
yes,
you know, you have ancient traditions of pottery that have been around for thousands of years, or even before that, things out of fibers, so gourd work and bags and such. So bringing them, the ancient Maya and other ancestors had assigned meanings for those things, right? That tangible culture had a meaning for them. Then when we bring it back and we put it into our culture now, which is that dynamic, right, system, it really does, we are assigning now meaning to it. And when you are within the community and you assign that meaning, it becomes part of your living culture, right? So it kind of all combines. I worked with
Terrible.
Exactly. I worked with David and Estrella Magana in Sukuts, and they were doing very similar stuff, trying to bring, they did more traditional symbolism as well, but they used like a modern kiln and everything for tourism and craftsmanship. But they were really trying to also help their community in Sukuts have that, like you're saying, that really central community feel, and to be more self-reliant as a community as a whole, instead of being reliant on imports and other things, by teaching them how to make, you know, these vessels in a modern age. So I think it's a really interesting kind of dynamic and how that happens.
Yeah, and that, Ali, those are what you and Emilio have been describing is exactly what we aim for. And this is a way that we're safeguarding our culture. By Emilio incorporating this tradition into his designs, by Ms. Estrella and the work that they're doing, teaching others, they're ensuring that that we have our culture, that it's not erased, that there's cultural retention, and we're safeguarding our culture.
And that's one of the sad things that I saw in Belize, that it's not slowly dying, it's dying fast, you know, and there is a need to like bring it back, you know, and it's very sad because the process is beautiful, you know, like it's very elaborate, but I mean, these artisans use it as like, while I've seen them making their fibers, they're like singing, they're talking, they're listening to, like, you know, it's very peaceful. It's like a meditation, and they're very in tune with themselves, you know, and that is one of the beautiful things behind it. And I think that's what we as a culture are losing.
And from an archaeological perspective, if I may, that kind of like, we sometimes as archaeologists see an object and we're like, this is an object, it's a pot, they used it to eat out of. But it is thinking about those other things that were involved. Were they singing when they were making the pots? You know, what was the tradition of the actual work? People made these things. And people are part of its production. They made it with their hands out of nothing, right? And so what are the processes in there? And then, you know, we have to think about that as people looking on the past, and that things that are in the past don't stay there. So once we excavate artifacts out of the ground, they are part of living history again, right? You know, Belize currency has how many archaeological things on it? No, but it becomes part of culture again. And I think like what you're saying, like that inspiration of bringing traditional into the modern, but also thinking about the culture that happened in the production of these things. Like you have to keep that in mind, or else why are you digging things? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. And I think it's not just the connection that people have with specific objects, but it's also the connection that people have with spaces. Yes. Be that heritage spaces, archaeological sites. You know, my master's was in Indian Church Village in next to Lamanai, so Orange Walk. So hello, people from Indian Church Village, if you're watching, love you all, my little family. But yeah, definitely. So it's, you know, what I discovered, which was a significant part of my my thesis, is that people look at the site of Lamanai from a very different perspective. They don't look at it in a way as a tourist, a Belizean tourist, or an international tourist would look at the site. You know, it's a Maya site, it has history. Okay, great, we've been there. Tick. You know, so it's very different, and it's a very special connection. People look at the site as their home. You know, they used to live on the site. And they still have a very special connection with the reserve itself, with the plants and the animals in the reserve. You know, so that is also it's part of living heritage. And while many people say that, you know, people in Indian Church Village are not the descendants of the ancient Maya who lived there, and you know, back in the ancient times, that it is something new, you know, and not letting people engage with that connection and engage with that heritage would be destroying intangible cultural heritage. So not letting people having their special connection with the space, their modern or not archaeological but historical connection. You know, Indian Church has maybe, you know, their history go back in like 30 years, 40 years tops, and that's very recent. So many people would not consider it to be worth saving, but it is, because it is part of something new.
And I think thinking of spaces as the place where intangible and tangible cultures come together, right? You are the space, the place, and the structures there, and, you know, as a site or as a village, that is tangible. But the things that you do within those spaces is culture, right? And so I think the Belize model that Linette introduced is a great way to look at that. So you see it from the community out, right? Yeah. So the culture happens where the community is combining this intangible and tangible, right? So
and we don't have to separate things. We don't have to say, oh, this is Maya, you shall not engage.
Exactly.
This is modern, you shall not engage. Like, we don't have to separate this. This is all, you know, if you look back thousands of years, might be such a, you know, cheesy example, but, you know, you look back thousands of years, culture had changed. Culture had gone through a significant processes of change, several processes of change before we got to the present.
Exactly.
You know,
and that's
so
one of the
why stop that?
It's dynamic.
Yeah,
lessons to be learned too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
So I think this could ease us right into our next discussion topic, which is to safeguard culture versus freeze our culture. So
definitely.
Just as Ali and Emilio and Ella, you've hinted out, you know, culture is constantly changing. We cannot freeze culture and say, okay, this is how it happened 1,000 years ago. This is exactly how it should happen now. Culture doesn't work with like that. We create our culture every day by living. And so it's not possible to freeze it. And it's not fair, like how Ella was saying, to say that, to separate them and say this is this and this is that. And that's why instead of saying protecting or freezing our culture, we use the word to safeguard. And by safeguard, we're ensuring that it's transmitted, we're ensuring its viability, that it continues to be practiced. It might not be the exact same way, but the essence is still there, you know, the core. For instance, like with Emilio's designs, you can see the modern, but you also know, like, you're able to trace it back to a specific element in culture. So that's what we mean by saying safeguard versus then freezing and protecting culture.
Yeah, there's a difference between, when we say safeguard culture and when we say conserve or preserve culture. Many people use it, either way,
loosely,
but yeah, loosely, and that's okay. But when you actually studied it and when you go in depth thinking about such things, you realize that you can conserve or preserve a ceramic pot. You can conserve it. You can make sure that you conserve the painting. That's conserving. But you cannot conserve a technique of the technique of making that pot. Every single individual would do it differently, right?
Or the influence of the artist, exactly.
Definitely. Exactly. And the different influences and not just in the not necessarily just artisanal techniques, but in dances, in singing while making. What do you preserve? Whose way of making that pot are you preserving? Which person's song are you preserving? There's no way. You sing it differently, you do it differently, and it's gonna change. Your grandma did it differently. Or cooking, right? Your grandma made something differently. You have your own twist on it, and that's okay. So there's a difference between preserving something or safeguarding something. And just like I mentioned in the beginning, this was one of the big controversies around the UNESCO World Heritage List, and like the whole mentality, back in the 70s, 80s around culture and heritage, because people use the word preserve. And many people argue that, okay, so we have this archaeological site that is World Heritage now, we preserve it. We just, lift it out of its natural way of being or existing. We don't let people around it because we're preserving it, and that, while it might help to actually preserve certain structures, which you can and which would be important, you lose a very important aspect of that site, which is people interacting with it. So that was a massive controversy around, the UNESCO World Heritage List. It's, of course, developed since then, and they have a very different take on it, as I said, especially with introducing the intangible cultural heritage aspect, and using words like safeguarding and using words like maintaining culture or aiding culture rather than preserving it. I just wanted to highlight that there's a big difference, and if you really think about it, you realize that it can be a cause of great controversy in a way.
That is true. That's why we stick to saying safeguarding. And as you'll see on the following slide, if you can switch to that one, Ella.
Yes.
The next one, sorry. After this.
This one?
No, after that, sorry.
We talked so much.
Yeah. There have been initiatives that have been taken to safeguard our culture in a formal way, to formally strive to ensure that we're safeguarding our culture. And one of the ways that we're doing this is by doing an inventory. We want to develop a national inventory that represents all the different cultural elements. And so we've been doing this by conducting interviews, by doing research and being out in the field through documenting our culture. So the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, ISCR, has a small staff. It's only about 7, I think, of us, and we all have different portfolios. So not everyone can work directly under the ICH, although in a way everybody does. But what we did, instead of us being in the field, we, like I mentioned, one of the main goals is for capacity training. So this is where our network comes into play. All these key people. We have the young adults, university students, teachers, community members, they are the ones out in the field doing the inventory, because who better than to document their culture than the community themselves? So that is one of the main goals of the entire model, is for the communities to take ownership. Niche ISCR is only here to facilitate that, to provide you with the tools necessary. And like I mentioned, these individuals have been working towards this from the inception, from 2012, when the convention was first began to be implemented. They have inventoried over 20 traditional crafts. The cultural celebrations have been done in depth. I think there are currently 5 videos out with the cultural celebrations. They have Yurume, they have Christmas Bram, Carnaval, which other one? And then La Fiesta de San Joaquin. These documentaries are developed through all the information that has been collected by the communities. So they bring that information, and we go over it, and we develop an output, it's the videos. However, yes, we're the ones who would design the video, but nothing happens without community approval. The community has to say, yes, this video truly represents our community. No, this does not, and we have to cater to the communities because it's their culture. Like I said, we're just there as an enabling body, just assisting them to take that ownership of their culture. So I want to say, I cannot express how much, how like the extent of our gratitude for all those individuals who take time out of their busy days, who do it on the weekends, after work, after school, who go out and interview their community members, their family members, and like I said, they've done so many traditional crafts, the cultural celebrations. They've also done culinary practices, dances, music, and we have these teams all over. We have from PG to up north in Orange Walk, Corozal. They're spread out. And like I said, they are not really compensated. This is not a job for them. This is something that they do out of their own free will. And one of the things, though, that it has changed a little bit now because of the pandemic. We're not able to go out just like as freely as we would like to. So what happened is that the Belize Living Heritage website was launched in February, and this website is going to host all the inventory. And this is supposed to be a Belizean website where everything that represents Belize is going to. This is the official website where all the countless of hours, that the interviews that have been conducted by the community members, this is a reflection of their work, a small reflection of their work, if you may say. And we try to adapt now that we're not able to go out and do these inventories in person. So there is this form online. You can find it right there at www.belizelivingHeritage.org, where you can submit a cultural practice, a traditional craftsmanship, and you can even nominate or tell us a little bit more about a cultural practitioner who you believe has been doing a lot in your community that should be here. So the form is there. It could be a bit lengthy, but if you start it, it's knowledge that you have. You don't have to go far. You can ask a parent, a grandparent. You could even do it over the phone. Ask them to tell you a little bit about folklore, about music. How was life back then? Especially right now that we might be at home. Let's take this advantage, this opportunity. Reconnect, exactly, to talk to them. This is our culture, and this is something that we should be proud of. So this is a method that has been implemented to safeguard our culture, is by documenting the cultural elements to develop a national inventory that will be represented, a representation of Belize. And can we now, sorry, go back to the slide before this? there are a few images that I wanted to highlight that as I was going through them spoke to me. I guess they look at the expression in their faces. This is them living, practicing their culture. One of the two of the pictures there highlight Joshua Arana, and he's well recognized a cultural promoter that you ask him, Josh, let's beat drums on Friday. He comes ready to beat those drums. Like, these are people who don't hesitate to show you their culture. And look at all the initiatives in San Antonio Village. They have come to celebrate their Maya Day. Like, we have on a full day of activities that highlight all these different elements of their culture. And it's not only there. You have it. I think PG has also had it. We have everywhere. You have people coming up with these initiatives, and it's like, yes, it makes you feel proud to be a Belizean that we are taking ownership of our culture. We don't need anybody to come tell us, hey, you have to do this. We're taking the own initiative. And let's go to the other slide before this. Sorry, I wanted to show the pictures as well.
This one?
Yes, no, I had that one. Just look at Mr. Florencio Mess. He has been playing the Maya harp. He's not one of the three kings, by the way. He's been playing the harp for so many years, and he's so proud. And this is a traditional Maya playing harp. So it's just amazing. And I wanted to show, these are just a few of the thousands and thousands of pictures that show and reflect how people truly are, so how they believe that their culture truly is a part of their life. And before we move on from the discussion, I wanted to talk a little bit about the culture, the Belize Heritage at Home campaign that was launched by the Institute for Social and Cultural Research. What I wanted to talk about this in particular is that many people sent in submissions. It was amazing to see the number of submissions that people were sending in. We basically sent out a call that said, submit a call, show us how you practice your heritage at home. And we got so many, from food, from dances, from crafts, from art, from poetry, all these different elements that showed how they practice their culture at home. I know that I saw a friend of mine, I saw that she was making hudut at home, and she had her daughter helping her. And I reached out to her and I asked her, and she told me, no, she likes to take the opportunity when we're cooking to ask us to involve her. A young child, I don't think she's even 5 yet, to have that, to say that I want to be a part of this. Show me how to do it. And this was all reflected with the entries, and these are just a few. We have posted some of them on the website, but it's just to one, say thank you for all the people who sent in the submissions, but also to show you how people are proud of their culture and they want to share it. We had people from San Antonio as well, Ali, sent in how they practice their culture at home, their Belizean culture at home, even Paris. So that was a great initiative that briefly highlighted how people value their culture.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say quickly, make sure you ask your questions, because send your questions in the comments and we're going to address them at the end of the presentation. Also, I think Emilio's mic is a little scratchy. I wonder if it's you or one of us. We got to comment it.
I think it's the connection, because I think it's when anybody talks. So it may just be.
Yeah, it may be just anyone.
Yeah.
Well, we got to comment that it might be. Sorry, guys. I guess
I wanted to since we're talking about safeguarding, talk about another initiative, like another way of safeguarding. And I think this is where Emilio will definitely have a lot to contribute to if we think about it. This is the innovation slide, Ella. Yes, right here. So I would say that this is a new approach at safeguarding and ensuring that we retain those cultural elements, is that we're now taking more of a business approach to it. We are involving or including our culture and trying to make a living out of it as well. And the picture I have up here is of Mr. Guerra in Trial Farm in Orange Walk. He makes all these beautiful carvings, and he has his little gift shop right outside Trial Farm. God given talent, and I believe that this is such a great initiative. Like, you're ensuring that you're safeguarding your culture and promoting it, and making it sustainable. And I think that's one of the best things, that ensuring that tying in that sustainability and that safeguarding. So what are your thoughts on this, Emilio?
Well, when I think about intangible cultural heritage, I think about identity, I think about creativity, community connection, like what we were talking about earlier. And now more than ever, we're trying to find something that we can hold on to, given the craziness, especially now, the chaos that's happening in the world, and what we've seen, like successful heritage arts, such as the Garifuna Collective, and the say, these people that they're bringing out, how do you call it, like ways to showcase what they already know. Like in the Garifuna Collective, they talk about everyday life, which is the culture, which is their community, and that it has proven a great success because people in Denmark can relate, which is where they're popular as well, like you think about all of these things. Hello?
Yeah, you're here.
Yes, okay. And right now, more than ever, too, during this pandemic, we're seeing more people being innovative in the things that they can produce. In food wise, I've seen a lot of businesses popping up and selling very, like, dokono tamales, and I've seen very creative different things and different because there's a flood of different food, and everyone sells the same thing. And now more than ever, since there are more people are trying to stand out, and they're being more creative in the ways that they're doing their chimole. I've seen tacos. I've seen all of these things, and people are being very different. So this is one of the ways, and I think.
Yeah,
I said that is very true.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, or they're coming to realize now, the importance of, or the connection between culture, business, and sustainability. This is one of the biggest questions that everyone asks us this, because Heritage Education Network Belize supports small businesses, nonprofits, individuals in the tourism, creative, and cultural sectors. And so many people are asking us, why is it business support now, or is it heritage, or which one? And the answer is both, because what many people, especially now, are realizing is that they connect. I think it's very important that we realize that by having, technical awareness or technological awareness, or having the ability to sell our products online, and having the ability to create something for ourselves, honing traditional skills to provide living and value to yourself and your family is very important. And so they do connect, because it's not, you can hone your skills, you can innovate, and then you can potentially make a living out of it. Just like Emilio, you use these traditional skills of making bags, but you innovate, and then you have your own business, right? And so it's the two together. So it's really important, especially right now, which is why we started this whole organization in the middle of the pandemic, quite literally in the middle of the pandemic, right?
Which is a blessing as well, because now everyone is more aware.
Yeah, all remote in the middle of the pandemic, and to help with this technological awareness, because it is important. It is important, just like we said, that communities come together and people raise their voices and say, oh, hey, this is also what I'm doing. This is, you know, these are the techniques I'm using, but also to share that, because whether we like it or not, we are living in a technological world, in a very very online world, and so it is important to raise awareness and to have a presence there as well. And so yes, culture and businesses and artisanship and heritage, they do relate, and they bring sustainability to you. They bring you the opportunity to quite literally sustain yourself through your trade, right? So they
right now,
really do relate.
Yeah, right now we see that, you know, like the global business idea or ideology is profit over people. And I think now we've seen like the disastrous effects of that, and we are turning back into putting people over profit. And that's where the sustainability, you know, organic growth instead of fast growth, being more connected to placing values in the things that we have, because, you know, the disastrous effects of, like, especially in my industry, which is the fashion industry, which is one of the biggest contribution. Fast fashion, and all of, we've been disconnected from the things that we own, you know.
The fabrics, the materials.
All of these things, you know. And the beauty about living in Belize is that we haven't, I call Belize like this big village. It's not really a country. So we're like still in tuned, because like with today, you know, like many Belizeans don't have a clue of what's happening outside. You know, everyone's in their own world, which is in a way good, because then we're focused on us family, you know. Like, especially during these days, like I've seen a lot of people just being with family dinners, coming, like it's beautiful. It's a blessing. I think that it's a blessing in disguise what has happened now, and it has shown, like I show you, I think businesses nowadays are looking for that story, you know, the process, the behind the scenes of an item of how do you say it? Like, I've seen the through
shift?
social media. Yeah, the shift. I see the shift. Yeah, that before it was just magazines and you see the imagery, which was the fast fashion. But now with technology, people want more. People want connection. So businesses are trying to showcase how the behind the scenes of where the things come from, and people want to relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that you know, just kind of inventorying traditional skills provides a resilience to communities, because when everything fails, you can fall back on your skills. You can fall back on having the knowledge of producing something that you can build a business around, right? If we're thinking with that mindset, right? So you know, having a lifestyle, having traditions, that's what you can fall back on always, right? So it provides a way of, you know, some kind of resilience to in the middle of all of this craziness, because it is crazy, you know. 2020, you know, we could have given up on it in like February. But right, I mean, but but yeah, so definitely provides a way of resilience. And, you know, it's not just something that we talk about, that we discovered. It's a very you know, well-known discussion in the global sphere as well. So I think I just the other day I saw that there's I think it's a quote from the World Economic Forum, and I just scribbled it down. I really wanted to mention it during this discussion. They're having a Sustainable Development Impact Summit, I think next week. It's like under the umbrella of the UN General Assembly, and one of their goal is, and one of their biggest you know, goals to achieve sustainability is, and I quote here, scale up entrepreneurial solutions to tackle climate change and advance sustainable development. So it is key, you know, entrepreneurial solutions, traditional solutions, you know, are sustainable. That's how they relate. And I think a lot of people don't realize, as I said, we get a lot of questions, are you business or are you culture? We're both. And a lot of people don't realize, and a part of our job as an organization is also to raise awareness to this, and also to raise awareness that there's a connection, and it is important.
Yeah, ultimately, things survive with funding.
Yeah, funding is also important. Like there's a lot of aspects to it, because while it is a traditional skill, and while you can create baskets on your own at your home, or you sell it to people around you, if you want a business, that's a different mindset. And even though you can rely on your traditional skills, you have to have a business mindset. You have to be well vetted in technology. You have to know how email marketing works. You have to know what is the importance of a website, so yes, definitely.
I've seen so many artisans that the beauty of their craft, and it's a shame that people can't see it.
It's not out there, and I know for a fact that there are many people who would want to buy it, but people are not out there. This is part of the reason why we started Heritage Highlight as well. As I said, I'm so glad you got offers from it. Emilio was just telling me a few hours ago that people, we featured Emilio, and people noticed. We have, we have quite a wide network right now in social media, and so people notice, and I think you have to keep it up. You have to know how to maintain your Facebook page. They're very simple, basic things, but they do relate, and by doing this, you are raising your voice, and you're presenting your craft, you're presenting your traditions and yourself. As Linette said, it's very important. So they do relate, and part of our job is to raise awareness to that, and to welcome innovation in many ways.
I've seen a lot of people now. Like, I've seen some designers and furniture here in Belize. Like, I've spoken to a few carpenters, and I've seen them thinking outside the box because they've had access to Pinterest. So they look.
Yeah, a lot of people have a problem with this, and we actually have a question related to that as well. We should move on. We should move on to questions soon. So please ask your questions.
To move on to that, like, just to close off this section of the conversation, though, I wanted to say that with innovation, yes, it's very important, but it's must remember to acknowledge the work of others, the work that has been laid out already, because there's people who have worked countless of hours to lay that foundation and allow us to get to where we are.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes, let's go on to questions.
Yeah, so make sure to ask your questions. We have a few. And I think, let's just go. Do you have another slide? No, it's here. And so, yeah, I think it's very important. And also there's a question, there's a lot of discussion around when can we say, what's the line, where's the line between, yes, this is still innovative culture, or this is totally 100% commercialized, and this is not what culture is. There's a fine line. I agree that there's a fine line, and the question is where that line is. Regarding where that line is, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. I talked to a lot of people. We talked to a lot of people. Oh yeah, go ahead, Ali.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the line has to come from the inside, right? So the people who are assigning that meaning to culture are the people who should be deciding what the dividing line is. But I understand, like, there's obviously, culture is not a monolithic, it's not a singular thing. So there's going to be people within the culture who don't agree. So it's definitely tricky, kind of.
I think a guide. I'm just suggesting a guide, because, like I mentioned, it would be difficult. It would be that once it loses meaning, once it loses meaning, that you're just doing it for that mass production, just to reproduce and make profit out of it. Once that meaning is lost, I think that could serve as a guiding principle.
This is another discussion that can get very heated amongst archaeologists and heritage professionals. Really, truly, it's and the answer is we don't know. We don't know, and our job is not to know, and our job is not to create labels, and our job is not to put heritage and culture into little packages. So with that thought in mind, we don't know, and we cannot say. Again, it might be an insignificant piece of souvenir that is mass produced and comes from a totally different country, but then if someone buys it, they assign meaning to it, right? So then again, we can go into endless discussion about it, but then what kind of meaning? Is it that original cultural meaning that we want to assign to it, or is it someone else's meaning? And it's very who are we to say that it's not okay, right? So that's another discussion that is that is part of heritage studies, and I don't think we can go into it right now because hours and hours would be lost, and we wouldn't get anywhere. So I think we can move into questions. We have a few. I really like this one from Marvin. So he says, understanding that, oh, sorry, Emilio, your face is covered, but you're here. Understanding that ICH follows a life cycle, thus cultural appropriation influences its form. Very good question.
Excellent question, actually. So we're saying understanding that ICH follows a life cycle, thus culture appropriation. The thing is, though, how I need a little bit of clarification. What do you mean by life cycle? Meaning that a cycle?
I think it's a dynamic of intangible cultural heritage. So we talked about. So, I guess keeping in mind that intangible cultural heritage is dynamic, and we also have to welcome innovation, and we also have to welcome individual affinities to culture and heritage. With that in mind, what is our take on cultural appropriation and whether cultural appropriation influences intangible cultural heritage? I would say yes.
Yeah,
right?
Following on the process and this train of thought, yes, it would influence its form because let's say that traditional forms would be music, dance, culinary practices, right? But it has a life cycle. Remember, culture is dynamic, so it's constantly changing, and with innovation and everything, we can even say to a point that now we can incorporate technology in some way. So it does influence its form, I would say.
And I think cultural appropriation, we can argue whether it's good or not.
Another argument,
but it is, right? So there are a lot of things that have been commercialized. There are a lot of elements of different cultures that have been commercialized and just grabbed out of their original context and have been put on and used by other cultures and other people. So definitely, and that massive commercialization and mass production of culture that had become part of the heritage industry, because we're talking about a heritage industry right now with cultural tourism, with artisanship, with businesses. That's a heritage industry. And with that in mind, when we talk about that, it does influence it, whether you think, and then we can go back to that, fine line where we say, where's the line, does it influence it in a bad way? Does it influence it in a good way? Can we say it's bad? Can we say it's good? It's a fine line. It also depends on the circumstances, obviously. But yeah, go ahead, Ali.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm done with my.
Zoom is so hard. I think it goes back to what Amelia was saying as well, where that commercialization or that cultural appropriation, however you want to call it, does influence kind of like the saturation of certain things in the economic market or culture, whatever you want to say. So then it does kind of push that innovation to do new things or to do different things or to go back to old things, which are now new kind of situation. So I think it's Like, even if you have the perspective that cultural appropriation itself is a negative thing, it does also influence innovation in the way that we're talking about it.
Yeah, can I
It can be.
I noticed
Yeah,
that
sure.
when like if you travel through Central America and you walk through the artisans market, whether it's in Mexico, Nicaragua, or Salvador, you would never know what country it is because everything is almost similar.
Yeah.
And then I found out as well that a lot of things were borrowed from Mexico originally, and they integrated it into their system, and then they made it their own though, like different color, different patterns, maybe plants native to them, but the technique was originally from another culture. They just adapted it to themselves, and I saw that, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, so it definitely can result in something beautiful in certain under certain circumstances, but also it can be, disrespectful.
Yes.
Obviously, when we talk about people wearing these like
just take like the pills and the fabrics and stuff of other cultures and just blatantly slap it on a bag and say this is my design without considering the effect. So I mean,
yeah, definitely, and also it can be very inappropriate and it can be very disrespectful. Definitely, I've seen many of it. But then we can also think of the aspect of how it is, as I said, it's just kind of taken out of its original context and it's just living its own life. And whether it's disrespectful, deeply disrespectful in many cases, or whether it ends up creating something beautiful, like Emilio said, using another technique from another country, from another culture, and combining it with your own and with your own taste. If it creates something beautiful, then it is also possible. One of my friends, maybe she's watching, I won't say her name, she did her thesis on dream catchers and the use of dream catchers and how they were kind of, taken out of context and how they became commercialized. It's a very interesting topic. So, this question, we could talk about it forever. But, the short answer is yes. Yeah, it influences its form. Whether it's good or not is another discussion. And also there are different versions and different cases that we can discuss.
We should have a session where it's a discussion, like hearing people's opinion, like comments from, the people, and see what's common thought then, or what is common.
Definitely. And it ties in with, cultural tourism as well. And the commercialization of archaeological sites, the commercialization of practices that lose this sense of tradition. They lose touch with the origins, and this is one of the reasons why so many people and so many scholars in heritage studies and in archaeology, they're really against this like globalization and commercialization of heritage, because in a way, yes, you can make a living out of selling your products to tourists. You can make a living from being a tour guide. You can share your culture. You can promote your culture through that, right? But in another way, if it's not done consciously, respectfully, and appropriately, it can go the other way as well. And that is, I think, which I also agree with, that is what a lot of people in culture and heritage don't agree with. And that's why they oppose all of this. But then we have to be very careful not to oppose all development and all innovation, right? Again, fine line. We can go on to another question. I think we're sufficiently answered this one. You can write an essay on it. Yes. We had another question that I wanted to... John Arana. Rapid erosion occurring. Very few individuals remain that are capable of making arugula or cassava crater using stones. I think it's kind of like a statement rather than a question, but I think it might be interesting to address. Yeah, I think that's why it is important to share these skills. In the first place.
And that's one of the things that at the inventorying and the documenting, that you want to promote this culture as well, but ensure that there is record of it, that we are aware that we do have a reference, I believe, then. And it is true, like there is a possibility always of having that cultural erasure, because once
Yeah.
it's constantly practiced, for culture to be a part of our life, it has to be constantly practiced and recreated and part of our life. So if that's not happening, then we run that risk of cultural erasure, you know. So we must take that initiative as people and try to ensure that we play a role in allowing that we continue to safeguard and promote this particular aspect of our culture. But it is
Yeah.
there's so many cultural elements and aspects that are no longer practiced that much. And sometimes when there's like a cultural practitioner, for instance, that passes on and that knowledge was not shared, then that's the end of that tradition. And
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
think it should be an initiative, like a collective initiative that we take on.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
sorry. I think erosion is like a really good way to think about it, to word it, because erosion can be mitigated if you notice it happening, right? It's not kind of one or the other. So I think kind of the idea of safeguarding culture is a way to mitigate that erosion, right? And that is through documentation, but also I feel like recently, at least in the villages I've been in, there is like kind of a revitalization, especially with artisan crafts. And there's a lot of, so the
Very
potters I worked with,
important,
for
yeah.
example, exactly, they're teaching other groups, like David and Estrella taught a woman's group in Sukkot how to make pots to sustain themselves economically at home and not be relied on other things, but it also is a way to revitalize and kind of safeguard those techniques.
That transmission,
Yeah.
And also, you know, you can inventory and write down a specific technique, or this is how it used to be done. But if it's not practiced anymore, it's very different.
it
right?
has to be part of
It-
that living heritage, created practice.
Yeah. So what Ali said about revitalization, that's also another aspect to it. You know, not just inventorying, inventorying just in case. If anything, it's there. There's papers about it. There's videos about it. There's knowledge that remains, but practice is very different. And revitalizing, and and you're like reviving these traditions is also very important. So that's another aspect of it, which again can be done through community engagement, raising awareness, taking the initiative, gathering together and saying, look, I'm going to teach you how to do this. You're going to learn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
And even
artisan that I
language.
work with down south, he's 80, his grandfather started making these natural fibers here in Belize, and he passed on to his father, and then he started making it, and he made a comment saying that he doesn't think he wants his son to continue it because there's no point, and he rather them go to study, and I can't argue with that,
Yeah. But then again, if we can show that there's a point, this is the whole point, to show that there's value in it. If you can make a living out of it, there's value in it to people. And, of course, there's, the traditional heritage value that this is my culture. I want to preserve it, safeguard it, whichever word we use. But there's also the aspect to it that, yes, what do I do with it? As like you said, what in this day and age, how can I utilize this? Because if I have this knowledge, what can I do with it? Why have this knowledge if it doesn't make sense in today's day and age? So definitely, that's another reason why we're doing this, raising awareness, hone your skills, make a living out of it. That's another thing, and that's why we're promoting this, and that's where innovation again comes in. So
that's why I was
definitely.
His grandfather used to make hammocks. His father made hammocks. He makes hammocks, and I'm like, maybe you should venture out into other things other than hammocks, And I think that comes in.
Yeah,
Because all they
definitely.
know and see is hammocks and milk bags. I'm like, you need to like go out and
Diversifying.
and diversify.
It's another magic word. Another magic word we use here. Diversifying, diversifying, diversifying. You know,
Yes,
well, why
yes,
not? Is made with that product. You know, you do that every day, Emilio, right? With the artisans, you diversify products, you diversify the techniques, the skills,
I
and
try
you
to bring a
create different.
different outlook. Like the people I work with another artisan. She's been working with coconuts for over 15 years here in Belize City, and I went to her and I started making this new bag, this new design that I'm making. And when she saw it, she was so proud and so happy that that something else could be made other than earrings.
Yeah, definitely. We have another question from, I just want to say hi, Rashid. He said hello. He's one of our volunteers. We say hello to family. So, hi, Rashid. He's watching. I hope you're enjoying the talk. Gonna get comments from him later. And then we have another question, also from Marincho. It's also really good. You mentioned the need for consent. I guess when inventorying, consent from the communities. And while the convention does not necessarily protect intellectual property, knowing that ICH has collective ownership, how can the convention help, or what can be done when groups claim such?
Wow.
Interesting question.
That is a very hefty question. And Marvin, we've been talking about this a lot. We have an in-house a specialist in intellectual property, and there's always this principle, you know, when it comes to communities, because a community might claim that this is originally from their community, and then you have another community, and it's been like a lengthy discussion that we've had. We've faced this situation, and there's no clear answer yet. However, one of the things that the convention highlights is that no harm is to be done to any of the communities. So once that line is crossed, then that's when I'm not too sure what has happened. I'm not aware of any situation of this happening, but I believe that that the convention, or they would step in to protect and ensure the protection of the rights of the people. But like I said, this is another question that's very.
Yeah, I think
that's fully answered.
Yeah, it is another big issue in heritage management, massive issue,
especially when it involves like.
Yes, I actually just wrote an article about this. It's, you know, when there are different groups claiming a specific tradition, dance, a specific form of intangible cultural heritage, that can lead to a lot of conflict, right? And I think I brought up, I don't want to say something that I don't, you know, but I think there was an issue about the Aymara dances in between Peru, Bolivia, and I think Ecuador, was it? I don't want to say something stupid, but you know, they were assigned in a joint way. You know, they were recorded as Aymara dances in a joint way, and not by, you know, country. So so countries like, oh, it belongs to Bolivia, oh, it belongs to Peru, and so that is so there's this conflict between, you know, it can cause conflict with nation states and governments who say, no, this is ours. It can also cause problem between different groups, cultural groups, who say, no, this is ours, or maybe they don't even, you know, care, but the nation states want it to be theirs for, you know, tourism, commercialization, nation building reasons. A lot of examples, plenty of examples. Each case is completely different, but it's a very, very big topic.
This is an excellent question, though, because it's something that's very present, but we don't often talk about it.
Yeah, definitely, and it ties in with creating labels. It ties in with again with your previous question of appropriating heritage, right? It ties in with a lot of things. It ties in with the fact that often the communities, there's this whole issue with what is ownership? Why should we like heritage ownership? How should we define it? What is it? And very often communities don't fight over what can be described as ownership, in legal terms, or what can be described as, intellectual property. These are law terms, right? These are terms that we create. So if you think about it, people who practice a specific culture or a specific, dance or anything, they don't always, doesn't necessarily need to, they're very well aware of their own culture, they know that that's their culture. They know they own the culture, hypothetically, obviously not on, paper or anything, but they don't need to be reminded of who they are, right? In a way. So it is a very, and usually when it comes to, I think what I see, and I don't want to, say anything stupid here, but usually what I see is that these ownership issues very often tie in with access to commercialization and access to tourism. So rather than actually fighting over who we are, groups tend to fight over, and countries and nation states tend to fight over the right to own something to commercialize on it, right? Because when something becomes heritage, right? Something becomes the World Heritage, this is Belize is World Heritage. Belize will inevitably commercialize on it, right? So not necessarily in a bad way, as we said previously, commercialization, again, a massive question, but it ties in with inevitably tourism will come, right? They will want to see that site. They will want to see that dance. There will be more sales. That will be, so there's like a commercial advantage with the ownership of ICH. So that has also been a massive, massive, very controversial question, which I don't want to take sides on right now, or I wonder if ever. But, what I see is that it often ties in with material goods and capitalization on ownership of culture rather than people questioning their own identity or their own culture. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're in a discussion. What do you think?
I think Marvin agrees. He says profitability. So it is that idea of, when does culture become an economic resource? Yeah. And I think that's the line that we're kind of talking about here.
Yeah. And again, we do say innovation is good. Again, we do say that commercialization is good to a certain extent. So again, we inevitably come into, while we don't want to create labels and while we say that, we inevitably come across with collective ownership or intellectual property in a legal way, right? Because that is a problem that had occurred over and over and over throughout the history of culture and heritage, like through the history of UNESCO, through the history of the UN. This is a topic that is widely discussed and to be honest, sometimes concerning. But yeah, so it is unavoidable while the morals dictate that we should not do this. It's a strange, you know what I'm talking about? Like, again, great question.
I find it very conflicting to come to terms with a yes or no answer some clear black and white.
Yeah. So like what can be done when groups claim such? Who knows?
Take it to
Right.
social media and just. I used to work with some. I used to work with a cooperative in Guatemala of women,
Mm-hmm.
and there in Guatemala, there's like a lot of communities are known by the whip hills that they use and the kind of symbolism that they use.
Mhm.
And there was a man that went in and used the bird symbols of a cult, like one of the communities, and they found out that, and it was the exact same replica, like nothing changed, like it was these birds, and they were profiting off, and they didn't give any kind of what do you call it, acknowledgement to the group. They just practically stole it and made profit off of it, and they took it to social media. The group and a bunch of other students and an NGO in the community. They took it to social media, and eventually the company shut down.
Wow.
You see, that's an interesting example. Very good example. I don't know the details of the case. As I said, every case is very different and its own. But some cases are quite clear.
Yeah.
Some cases are not. I think to like half answer your question, Marvin, what people can do is, and what I think is important to do is to address the local contemporary situation. Address it. Look at archaeological records. Look at cultural records. Look at people's affinity to places, cultures. Look at all the details, case by case, and you have to make a decision then based it on that. I don't think there's a general answer to all of this, right? And I don't think there's a one way fit, like one method fits all kind of way, which is what I talk about and what I voice a lot during my work is that, local, contemporary, situation, case by case, heritage management and ISCR management and creating a framework, which is what I think Linette was also highlighting, that of creating a framework that is flexible enough for you to adopt it to the different circumstances. Which is why Linette was saying that the intangible, the ISCH Convention is quite good. That each country can adopt it to their own
their specific
taste and their own specific ways. This just kind of ties in with it. Then again, I'm not sure if that answers the question in any way. But yeah, let me see if we have any. Oh, you want to say something, Emilio?
No, I said that was a good question.
Oh, yeah, great question. Great questions you have, Marvin.
Yeah, I really like them because these are issues that are happening but not rarely spoken about.
Oh, we have many questions. Oh, we have Felicia answering from ISCH. Hi, Marvin. Great question. To shed further insight, in terms of the documentation inventorying process, the information, traditional knowledge shared does not become the property of ISCR or niche. Any information collected is properly attributed to the community and individuals that provided it. Also, there are instances whereby traditional craft makers do not wish to share certain aspects of their design process as they feel that it is their unique innovation. That is perfectly fine. They are, too long. The comment. I can't see the rest of the comment. But I think this kind of answers another aspect of your question, Marvin.
Yeah, like we mentioned,
it's not a property of niche or ISCR.
No way or form, it's not. And whatever is shared and put out there, it has to be consented by the community. We were not able, for instance, we did a documentation of a traditional Maya healing ceremony, which was beautiful, but we are not able to put that out there because this is something very sacred to them. They just wanted us to document it. and we
I have
respect
to
them.
think about that.
That is in safe. Nobody has access to those videos except the community. So yeah, which or ISCR does not own in any way or form any of the elements, anything that is inventory.
Yeah. We have another question here.
Mhm.
That's a good question. How are the cultural practices stored and documented, and how can future generations gain access to this information? Linette,
Oh,
this is for you.
yes, thank you. So we conduct a training to formalize it a little bit to ensure that we look at all the different aspects of the element that's being inventoried. So with the assistance of the community, we develop an inventory sheet. And this is to guide the community members who are doing the interviews to ask questions. Okay, from where did it originate? Any other cultural practices or elements associated with it? Who practices it? What is the meaning behind it? Like a set of questions. However, it's very important that it's the community members who do their own inventorying and documenting because they know the questions and what to ask. So once that's why it's the community members who are trained. So they follow this inventory document. We evaluated at ISCR. We look at, okay, maybe what about this question? Can you get a bit more of information? And then they do more field work, and then they come in and submit that to us. We store the data, and what we try to do is not put out the raw information out there. For instance, there's a lot of issues with confidentiality. Then, like I mentioned with the traditional Maya healing, there's certain aspects that we cannot really readily share. So what we do is that we develop articles, and everything is posted. The curated content is posted at the www.believelivingHeritage.org website. You will look under a section that says inventory, and right there is everything that has been inventoried so far. And if, for instance, there like in particular researchers or anybody else would want to access those other files, of course you have to get the consent of the communities before you share it. But that is like standard how we conduct the inventory. It's by community members, and they have been trained to do the inventorying, and it's documented and under the ISCR collection, and then a curated version is posted. Everything is up there in the website, and the website also has a lot of activities, a lot of educational content that people could access, and this is a result of their work. They're the ones who are producing this. So it, like I mentioned, the website is a reflection of the work of many communities who put in the hours, to share with us their culture.
Yeah. I'm gonna put all of this information in the description of this video when we upload the replay. So if you're interested, then you can access it there. I'm also gonna upload the same thing on YouTube, and make sure to include the links, and Linette, you can share it with me. And
We
all the
encourage people to access our website because everything is there. You can read about Grand Ball, about Carnaval, about Yurume, about different cultural crafts, about culinary practices. It's a lot there, and this is just the surface. There's still a lot more.
I think we can close with this question because we have been going on for 2 hours. So I don't think I wish we could answer. I see that there are some other questions.
We can always have a follow-up session,
Yeah, we can have a follow-up session if people are interested. And we're going to try to answer all the questions in the comments. If we can, because as you can see, we have massive discussions and ending up with no answer whatsoever. But we're gonna try. We're gonna address it. That's all I can say. So I guess thank you so much for everyone that you came, everyone for coming and asking your questions. Marvin, great questions. Truly. And we hope that we can see you in other discussions. And I guess just a big thank you for everyone who stuck around. And the whole replay will be available on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. And thank you so much, Linette, for the presentation. Thank you for ISCR and everyone working at ISCR for making this available to us. Not just the presentation itself, but the work you have been doing, really, truly. And thank you, Ali, for contributing. Thank you, Emilio, for contributing. It was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed it.
I hope you guys really nice. Yeah.
That's how we spend our Fridays. But yeah, definitely. And if you guys are interested, we can bring Linette back. We can bring other people discussing culture and heritage. Let us know, right? Write us a message, comment. We're really open for everything and any ideas. We're truly a network, a hub for like-minded people. So definitely. And thank you so much for everyone for coming. And thank you guys for coming. And I hope you have a good night. Keep safe with all the COVID craze that's happening. And hopefully we can see you guys soon.
Yeah.
See everyone soon. So, thank you. And have a good night, everyone.
Good morning.
Bye.
Good morning.
Bye.
Bye.
Or morning for me. It's 5. Wow. Oh, Ella. Oh, well. Good night, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.